Welcome to this episode of YouTube where fall is in the air, and a couple of ways that we know that. First of all, the animals are more active. Wolves tend to get more active as the winter approaches. Winter hormones become active, and with these pups, so we're seeing a similar pattern. They start to get a little bit more rambunctious, a little bit more wrestling, and obviously we see trees turning color, and we're going to start to see leaves drop, so we'll have a more visible view of this enclosure. The other thing that we have is a lot of burrs and seed pods and things that are getting stuck to the pups' coats. The more they run around up in the top of the woods, the more we pick things off their coats. They're still engaging quite well with the adults. We're still feeding the pups twice a day, 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. They're eating about maybe 2 pounds of meat a day per pup. It varies, again, with the individual pup. They go back and forth between bison and beef and venison. We did put some bison on our Amazon wish list if anyone would care to help donate to feed the pups. So we will see them eat on those twice a day sessions until probably late November, and then we'll kind of switch them up a little bit and they'll get a little bit more into carcass feeding. You'll see Axel engaging with Aiden, trying to get a piece of that deer hoof, and Grayson engaging with the camera. They're still learning some of the rules about being around cameras. So as I said, we see a lot more wrestling than we probably had when they were younger. The wrestling bouts when they were younger may not have been as physically active, where they're actually now going up on their back legs and jaw sparring, and certainly showing more intensity, a lot more grabbing, a lot more tugging, a lot more pinning. And here you see Grayson take advantage of a kind of a safety net in the rocks. He's a little bit intimidated by the height of Denali yet, and that makes him a little more problematic. But when Denali gets a little bit too much, Aiden is fairly quick to come in and try to assert dominance over him. So one of the things that we see with Denali is that in the absence of Luna, Denali has certainly taken on a little bit more dominance. If you recall, Luna was very hard on Denali, constantly putting him down, and so the reality was that Denali was really in a lower ranking position within this pack. In the absence of Luna, Aiden still shows dominance over him, but what ends up happening is that they're short bouts, and then when Aiden's done, he redirects to Grayson. So there's a little bit of a male rank order issue, but for the most part the males are getting along quite well. Here the adult males are waiting for the pups who are in the medical pen for their morning feeding, and you'll see them laying really close together, really no interaction between them. But as soon as the pups are ready to come out, there's a lot of tail wagging, a lot of interest. Some of it is stimulated by the fact that there's usually leftover food in there. For Denali, it's not so much about the pups being separated, it's about what can I get to eat. For Bolts, though, it's a little bit about the pups being separated. He likes to try to interact. He investigates the pups, and he certainly has a much stronger curiosity about what they're doing, and a little bit of anxiety if they are separated, so the focus is stronger. So as I said, Grayson seems to be falling into that bottom Omega pack member role, and some of that is because of the way Axel interacts, or the boldness of Axel has created that situation. But this is not set in stone. This can change dramatically. And here you see the height difference. The pups just turned 4 months of age on September 2nd, and so already they're over half the height of the adults. So 4 months into their lives, and they are almost half the size of their adult counterparts. So the curiosity is definitely increasing. As fall increases, we get a lot more rodents that come around the building. Certainly the food resources we have are a stimulus to migratory birds that are traveling, to rodents that may pick up a few resources here and there. So you're going to start to see a lot more focus and a lot more interaction, especially around these rocks. The rocks have kind of been a safety network for Grayson all along, but now they're another source of stimuli to be able to try to find and hunt and stalk and hopefully obtain a rodent somehow in this pattern. These are all instinctual behaviors that wolves have, and certainly as we see the pups develop those instinctual behaviors and expand and get successful at them, you're going to see a lot more predatory behavior. So with Luna, we did get x-rays back, and actually we did not see any real significant issues in her spine, which we were concerned about, that this was advancing sign of arthritis or something. But her back right leg, which was a source of issue when we first acquired Luna, with her vitamin D deficiency and lack of real strong development of her bones. That right femur has a little bit more degenerative state than it had in the last x-ray, which we expected. What we do notice though about her, again, is probably the way that she's holding that back leg is probably causing her a little bit of muscle, maybe even a little bit of pinched nerve or issue. So the consultant has been hired to teach us some body work techniques, and she is here this weekend, and we'll be hopefully giving Luna a little bit relief. We try to give her as much relief as we can with bedding and making sure that she has comfortable places to rest. And that includes not just in the vestibule, in the covered area, but also she likes to lie outside near Grizzer, and so we certainly want to encourage that. Now, we don't know Luna's fate. We, at this point, our next step, after we're still waiting on a little bit of blood work to look at some details, but the next step is to work on body work and massage and see if we can give her some relief. And the idea of her joining the pack is going to be really dependent upon how she physically feels. At this time, there's not a lot of interest with her or the rest of the pack members to interact. And so before we'd ever consider reuniting this pack, we would look at probably one-on-one through the fence interactions with Aiden first. So Luna would be in the vestibule. We'd allow Aiden to come in the pack holding area. Same thing with Bolts, and the same thing with Denali. And multiple times to watch that before we can make certain that she's physically safe. And then we would need the whole pack of males, including Grayson and Axel, into the pack holding area and see what their response is. If Grayson and Axel are intimidated by Luna and that weakness is picked up by the males, it can be risky for them. So there's a lot to this process. And like I said, our first and foremost is that we want to make sure that Luna feels comfortable, that she's relatively pain-free, and that her behavioral response to those pups, especially the way the pups climb and grab and pull on tails and race around and jump, we want to make sure that Luna's physically and well as psychologically ready for that kind of interactions. If we deem that she's not, we will certainly consider her and Grizzer to be social companions, but we just need to make sure, first of all, that Luna feels comfortable and that her needs are met physically before we put her in a situation where exposure to another individual might be more painful for her, might be more uncomfortable, maybe not even pain, just the preemptive thought of pain. So we're looking forward to this body work that hopefully we can try to identify some help. And one thing that we've noticed, we talk about calming nature of the pack. Typically when a siren goes off, everybody howls and everybody gets excited and everybody rallies. But it's been a real deep calm that's been going on here. Again, there's a few moments with Grayson, but here's a siren and there's no word from anybody. No response, no heightened level of intensity, no dominance, no growling. And that information and that communication amongst the wolves is very important for us to recognize. We need to be cognitive of what the wolves are telling us about current situations and how they're being managed. And Grizzer, obviously, he's always interested in what's going on. His visions are not very good in his right eye, but he certainly has a great sense of hearing, and he's always aware of activity. He watches Luna. He's not sharing a fence line just yet, but that's probably the working for wolves' number one priority, is to try to get that fence line shared to be able to hopefully see how those two individuals react to each other. We know that they're both food possessive. You know, living alone, having your own food resources. We knew Luna was food possessive even when she was in the pack, and Grizzer is equally as well. If you recall, we tried to integrate Grizzer and Shadow, and Grizzer was just not willing to share food resources and was a little hard on Shadow, who, like Luna, had other physical ailments. And so we want to be certain that we're doing what's right for both individuals. You know, and that could have a variety of ways that it looks. You know, maybe it's just short visits that are supervised and then separated. You know, definitely several weeks out before we make any of those decisions. Right now, our focus is to make sure the pups are integrated and feeling welcome in that pack, make sure that Luna feels comfortable, and make sure that Grizzer has all the resources he needs to continue to be a strong retiree. So that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.